Hello everyone, welcome back to my No Buy Year. The time has come, the walrus said. I think I made that joke on here before, but it feels particularly apt in today's video where I am finally going to do a book collection and declutter. Now, this is coming partly because my husband has asked me to clean the books from our bedroom floor. A lot of these have just been kind of living here in a pile as I've kind of been switching them in and out of my shelves for videos and have a bunch of them on my to-do list. In fact, there's one on the side table over there that I'm going to grab as well. I have been collecting these from all corners of my house as well as from this bin that I keep under the bed. These ones are mostly the ones that I've decided to keep, but there might be some in here that should go in the to be read and decluttered list as well. So I will be making those piles, maybe right here, to read and declutter, to keep for various reasons, and I'll tell you why, and unsure whether I'll keep and declutter after I read them, but still need to be read. So let me grab these other two books and I'll be right back. Now, I really don't want this video to take hours, so I'm gonna try to do this in a speedy way. I don't have a huge book collection, luckily, although I'm sure that there's at least 100 books, maybe 200 or 300 in this collection nonetheless. So without further ado, let's get into it. I guess let's start with all these books in the pile in front of me so I can get them stacked. Starting with The Conscious Closet. I've read this already and I was going to declutter it, but that was before I started this channel. And I think I'm going to reread it along with all of the other kind of wardrobe themed or sustainably themed books that I own, so I can make sure that there's no other nuggets of wisdom that I should talk about on here before I let go of these. So that will go in a need to reread and probably will declutter. In fact, let's do it by pile. So Stolen Focus, need to finish this and talk about it. Comfort Crisis, same, need to finish this and talk about it. So let's pile all those, need to finish and talk about them right here. Same for Getting Things Done. This was supposed to be like the old example for contrasting with the newer productivity books that I have, namely Feel Good Productivity. In the process of reading, we'll talk about it, along with the kind of general trepidation I now have for considering productivity material. I no longer think it's as worth buying. And I have Slow Productivity somewhere too. Where did that go? Whatever, I'll find it at some point. Okay, in the realm of Hungry Ghosts, again, need to read it. May or may not declutter, depending on if I feel like I need to read it again. Overdressed, another kind of conscious fashion book. Consumed. The Four Agreements, I already reacted to this one. And I don't really think I need to keep this book. I'm probably going to accumulate a box of the ones that I need to declutter anyway, so I will have some time to go back and decide whether or not I should retrieve any of those before I take them to Half Price Books. So I'll put that in a separate pile of don't think I need to keep. That's also where this one's gonna go. If you know, you know. I have So Good They Can't Ignore You, which is, I think, my favorite of Cal Newport's books. And I got it because I read it and then decluttered it and then wanted to have it back. So I will be keeping this one. And I do actually need to reread it. So we'll make a TBR right here of books that I think I'm gonna keep. What I talk about when I talk about running, I've heard really good things about this. I have not read it yet, so this might go in that pile. I have both of Nir Eyal's yellow books, Hooked and Indistractable. Need to read those and review them. I have Biology somewhere too, another bright yellow book. Here it is, which, what a coincidence that is also bright yellow and is also about buying stuff. This one's by Martin Lindstrom though, so it's not the same author. I don't know who ripped off of who with the bright yellow title. We'll stack it on top of those. Midnight Library, I read this one. Ordinarily, I wouldn't keep this, but a friend gave it to me in a book swap. So I have kind of attachment to her through that. Is that a good reason to keep a book? I don't know. It's also just some nice light reading. The author deals with like mental health in a very light and digestible way. It's kind of the same as like a beach read to me because it's just a nice, you know, mildly thoughtful kind of read. I know some people consider that style a little bit pretentious, but it didn't really bother me. And it's possible that I might know somebody who would be interested in reading this. It's a kind of popular book as well. So I am not in a hurry to declutter this one. And I guess I will put it in my kind of have already read, but I'm going to keep, at least for now, pile. I'm already a little bit tired and I haven't even done that many books. Okay, Brand Washed is another read and review. Fashionopolis is another one I've already read and want to make sure that there's nothing I'm missing to talk about. Read and review. Affluenza, I started this and quickly realized, this was before that I knew I was going to talk about books on here in any capacity. I realized that I needed to take notes and talk about this because even though it's an older book, it was so poignant, I thought, for the issues of today. So we'll read and review. This is clearly the largest pile so far, which is not a great sign. I haven't opened my books that I keep for reasons though, so the other piles will grow, I'm sure. The Day the World Stopped Shopping. I know I need to reread this and review. I've read it before, and all of these ones that I'd read before were kind of in my declutter pile because I feel like I kind of absorbed the knowledge and kind of wove it into the fabric of my own ideas. So I couldn't tell you what the books say, but I have kind of the mentalities that they will lead you towards, if that makes sense. But now that I have an online presence, I do kind of feel like I can save some people from having to read these books by kind of summarizing the points that helped lead me to a more conscious path, if that makes sense. So here's the story of stuff. Shell Bizzle really recommends this one. I think she said when she read it, it really changed her mentality. And again, I am probably going to talk about it so that if anybody wants to know what it says without reading it, but also not subscribing to things like Blinkist or whatever, story summaries, whatever, I'm going to do it for you for free. So if you're particularly interested in anything you've seen, even if it's not in this pile, go ahead and tell me if you want me to talk about it because I will do that for free. I found Slow Productivity. I finished this one. Will not be keeping it, but do still need to talk about it. So I won't give any spoilers about what I thought about that. No Logo. There's that one that's come up a couple times. I think we might almost be done with the books that I will read and talk about. Stephen King's On Writing was also recommended in the productivity category for whatever reason. So I will add it to the productivity kind of trifecta that I had, you know, the 3 books, Getting Things Done, the Ali Abdaal, and the Slow Productivity. I'll maybe throw in the Stephen King as well, if I can finish it in time for that video. Storyworthy, another one that I've seen recommended by YouTubers because telling a story is part of making YouTube videos and people want to make this a business and, you know, figure out how to make money from telling stories on YouTube. I am not really trying to figure out how to optimize for money, but I was influenced to buy this book because I thought telling good stories and being more interesting would be cool. So you know, if you want me to talk about it, I will, but it's just something that I want to read and probably declutter unless it's got life-changing wisdom in it, which I already know from experience now, from being wiser and older and more savvy and having bought too many things that I didn't need to buy. That is probably not going to be life-changing. Where's my to-be-read list? But we'll probably declutter list. I don't think I have one of those yet. So read and probably declutter will go right behind me. Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, another kind of life inspirational book that I had heard a lot about and thought I should read. So I don't know. I've heard so many good things about it that maybe I'll keep it. I'm just gonna maybe put it in here in the need to read and might keep pile. I don't know if you're getting confused, but this is the need to read and might keep. This is the might keep, not in a hurry to declutter for now, so the keep pile. This is the need to read and might declutter pile. This is the definitely declutter pile, and this is the need to review on the channel pile. So we got 5 piles. This is a Haruki Murakami book. He wrote IQ 84. And I just like him as an author. This is Conversations with Seiji Ozawa, absolutely on music. So I, again, don't know if I'm going to feel compelled to keep this one because of the subject. I'm a musician, so it might be very relatable. I just have a feeling I'm going to want to keep it. So sometimes the other thing that I do is if I really like an author, like I like Murakami, I will purposely keep one book by that author as a kind of reminder in case I forget that I like that author. And again, I have advocated against keeping a wish list for that kind of reason of like, ooh, I might forget that I want that thing. But with literature and authors, I do kind of feel like it's more valuable to have that connection with an author that I used to like before in case I actually do forget, because there's so many books, so much literature out there. And although Murakami had that period of like really being popular, and I still think he kind of is, I still wonder, you know, if in 30 more years, will he still be popular? Will I regret losing that connection and maybe forgetting about his work and the books that I've enjoyed and recommending him to friends and things like that, or my kids, or, you know, people in my future. So different feelings about kind of keeping a wish list for books, especially as well, they're not replaceable items, right? You don't wear out a book and buy a new one, typically, right? You might wear out a sweater and buy a new one, but like, you don't need to bookmark your favorite sweater brand, because by the time you wear out the one you like, you can look up the brand, you know, the same brand, you already know what it is if it's worn out. And if it doesn't exist by the time that you've worn out your sweater, there will be another sweater brand. And you might have different wants and needs or values with clothing by then anyway. So a book is not really the same. Okay, after that justification, we have Thus Spake Zarathustra. Again, I need to read it. Might keep it. I don't know yet. Things to Make and Do in the Fourth Dimension. This is a book that my kids love to pretend to read, and it's pretty beat up. I rescued it because I actually do want to read it before I return it to them to continue to beat up. So this is a read, and we'll probably declutter. This is the baby dust method. I can declutter that. I just wanted to read the information in that book, and I didn't have a way to access it. You know, libraries didn't have it, and I really didn't even need it. So there's that. Stephen Hawking, A Brief History of Time. I, again, have just heard about this book. I don't know if I'm going to want to keep it, but again, I will leave the option open. It's not a definite keep, but I will read it and then decide later. Walden, I have read this before. I bought it because I wanted to read it again. I think that I will probably keep it. It's got other of his writings in there as well. It was a recent buy, so I'm just going to put it there. This is a little bit of a juicy one, maybe, for viewers of this channel. I have Hannah Louise Poston's poetry book, and I have not read every poem in it, but I have enjoyed reading poems from it. And I don't have a lot of poetry books. I have Emily Dickinson in there. I have some of Maya Angelou, although, yeah, here it is. Although that's not a poetry book, but she is a poet, right? Unless I'm completely forgetting. But I am pretty sure she's a poet. And I think that might be all of the collections that I have. Is Edgar Allan Poe a poet? Just short stories, right? My knowledge of literature has gone completely out the window. Anyway, I have some Emily Dickinson, I have Hannah Louise Poston, and I have Maya Angelou. But I'm not mad at this influence, I guess, because to me, art as a craft, you know, poetry, art, visual art, sculpture, music, things like that are not able to be influenced in the same way as a product that's able for mass production and mass purchase, right? This is a fairly unique collection of poetry by an author, right? Like, it can't be replicated by another source, another influencer even. And I've seen critical reviews of, you know, like Gabby Hanna's poetry book or something like, I haven't read it, so like, you know, take it all with a grain of salt. But I do believe that some influencers are genuinely artists in other areas, you know, not making videos, not what they do through influencing online. And, you know, some of them do make content on their art or whatever. But in this instance, I'm not mad about being influenced to support an influencer by buying their poetry collection, because I consider this a separate art, if that makes sense. I think I'm going to do a video on art and whether it can be influenced, and then also kind of the connections to marketing being a form of art, which is it as valid if the purpose of it is to sell something, but then are marketing artists still artists? You know, I don't think I would remove the title of artist from somebody because their art is used for less than positive ends, if that makes sense. But I'm going to save that conversation for another day. Consider that a teaser. So I need to finish reading both of those books, actually, and probably will hang on to them, at least for the time being. Brain Rules for Baby, I think I can get rid of this, so we'll put that in the declutter pile. Need to finish Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. I honestly don't think I'm going to keep it though, so I think I'm going to read it and declutter it, which that was the pile back here. Not totally vibing with James Joyce. A Little Life. I have heard a lot about this again. It got really popular on social media. It's apparently really sad. Haven't started it, need to read it. Don't know if I'm going to keep it. Just for the sake of keeping the piles more even, I'm going to put it in the read and declutter, but if I really love it, it might stay. I don't know. Night Circus, same. I just saw this really popular and had an opportunity to get a free book on Thrift Books, so that's why I have this. Unless it's really good, I'm probably not going to keep it. Adelaide, same kind of deal. I just wanted to read it, and don't know that I'm going to keep it. Put that on the bottom since it's a hardcover. Saving Beauty by Byung-Chul Han. This was an influenced purchase. The channel, YouTube channel, Unsolicited Advice, is kind of a philosophy channel that has done some commentary on this philosopher. He's a Korean guy, I guess, Korean philosopher, which kind of makes me feel somewhat connected as a half Korean, which I do feel like cultural connections are valid, even if it's a form of influence that may not be. You know, I don't know the guy. We might have totally different life experience. We undoubtedly have totally different life experiences. But there's just something about sharing cultural ties, I guess, that feels like it's meaningful to me still and made me more interested to read his writing, which, again, is that good or bad? I don't know, but I'm just telling it like it is. Those are the things I felt when I was listening to him speak about this philosopher's ideas on other essays. So I thought, hey, I want to try another one. This one's called Saving Beauty. It sounds like it might speak to my artistic soul as a musician and somebody who pursues beauty in a lot of her daily life. You know, every time that I'm practicing my instrument, I'm kind of pursuing beauty of sound, beauty of tone, beauty of phrase, beauty of anything that can be used in music. So let's put that in the read and keep pile over here. George Eliot, Middlemarch, Silas Marner, and Amos Barton. I'm going to confess that I was influenced by a comment to try to read Middlemarch, and I think this was another one of my free thrift books. So I got 3 of these books. There's actually an inscription on the inside, and I love that aspect of thrifted books because, you know, I have this little piece of history from someone else's life. There's a signature, 10th of November, 1995. Landmark MDS. You know, what a sense of mystery and wonder and experience from someone else's life from 1995. I don't know if I'm going to keep this, but I'm going to put it in the read and possibly keep pile. And thank you to the commenter who influenced me to want to read Middlemarch. We've got Sophie's World. I remember reading this when I was a very young adult, maybe like 19, you know, just having reached adulthood in New Zealand. And I saw it at the half-price bookstore, and I thought, you know what, I want to own a copy of that. I remember it having a significant effect on my life and really sparking an interest in philosophy. So I wanted to own a copy, and I want to read it again. So it is going to go in the read and keep pile, which is growing ever taller. I'm going to be keeping a lot of books. The Tao Te Ching, same thing. I recently bought this, so I talked about it in my 9-month update. I'm just going to put it in this pile. Husband's Secret by Leanne Moriarty. This is just an author that I like to read for fun. I don't tend to keep books that I just read for fun though, because I don't tend to reread them. There's always something new out there, and I don't want to have, you know, especially with thriller mysteries, I think she's a kind of thriller author. The ending's been spoiled, right? So I don't need to read it again if it's just for fun. So that's going to go read and declutter. However, the mystery guest, Nita Prose, she wrote The Maid. This is the second one of that series. And there's just a special, like, kind of cozy element of this book, right? And The Maid, actually. If you haven't read The Maid, I recommend it. It's a mystery book, but it feels old-fashioned in a way. Like, it reminds me of the Agatha Christie mysteries, where there's something kind of old-world charming about it. And this flavor in a new book, a newly released book, was really special to me. And again, it's one of those things where I'm keeping this because I don't want to forget about this author, and I don't want to miss when the next one in the series comes out if there's another one. So I want to have this on my radar, so that's why I'm keeping it. So I guess I'm going to put it here in the pile of books that I know I'm keeping and have already read. The Artist's Way. I have had this recommended a lot of times. I think I'm probably going to talk about this because I think I've seen it in the comments on my channel, so I consider it in I Was Influenced by You book selection. Spanish stories. This is a side-by-side where on one side it's in Spanish, one side it's in English. I've been trying to learn Spanish for a long time. I hope I'll be ready for this at some point. I can kind of painstakingly make my way through it now, but it's, you know, it's slow going. So it might be a read and declutter, but I'm going to be honest and say that I'm probably not going to read it anytime soon. So it's probably going to go in this need to read and keep pile. This is a coffee table book. A friend gave it to me. It's basically full of like kind of illusion drawings. You know, like here's a zipper opening, but it's like a part of a natural landscape. Or it's not natural, it's like a city in grass. So like a landscape. Or like here's one, you know, there's a bubble being put over this lady's head. A dog being levitated by balloons. It's just, you know, for a kind of coffee table book, really pleasing and fun to look at. It's Eric Johansson, and I don't really need a coffee table book right now. I don't own a coffee table, but I do like to look at it. So I'm putting it in the have read and gonna keep. It's also a gift from a friend. Does it have an inscription? It does not. But some of the books that I've kept as gift from friends do have inscriptions, and that's something that makes them special to me. I do still remember who gave it to me, and it brings back fond memories of the times that we had together. The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, again, something that I want to read, might keep if it changes my life, or worldview, or perspective, or has tidbits in it that I want to remember. The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. I don't know how to pronounce their name, I'm so sorry. But again, another author I've seen recommended. I think they wrote Atlas Shrugged as well. And that's on my to read list. I don't think I have it. In fact, I think I have read it, but I need to reread it because clearly I've forgotten all about it. And I don't know whether I'll keep it or not. I guess I'll just add it to the ever-growing pile of need to read and might keep, kind of toppling my pile there, so let me rearrange it. Same with this one, The Brief and Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde. It's another book that I've heard about, been meaning to read for a while, acquired a copy a while ago, and just need to read and might keep. It also reminds me of a friend who was talking to me about it, and this is how I heard about the book first, right? I was influenced by a person in real life. Unfortunately, I am no longer friends with that person. We kind of had a falling out, and it's a little bit sad actually, because that was a person that I felt a strong philosophical connection to, but, you know, the memories of the times that I did have with this person are still alive and well, even if the friendship is not. So the book is a little bit of a positive reminder of that. Herman Melville's Moby Dick, you know, classic, need to read it, might keep it, might have to start another pile because this one is in danger of toppling over. Still good so far. Another Leanne Moriarty, 9 Perfect Strangers. I started this, I think, and didn't finish it, but again, it's just light entertainment reading, so it's gonna go in the read and declutter pile. This is a book that somebody at my job lent me when I first started, in the year that oh no, and it looks like my kids have drawn on the inner jacket. I hope he'll understand. It's just pencil, so I could erase it. He lent it to me in my first season there, and it's my 3rd season, and I still haven't read it and returned it. So this is almost like a separate pile, right, of books that I've got from other people, need to read and return. I think there's only one of these, so I'm just gonna put it on the edge here. You know it's there. It's called Bach, Beethoven, and Bureaucracy. Babel. It's a book of the month. I no longer subscribe to book of the month because I found myself reading and decluttering everything from there, mostly everything. So I stopped subscribing. I've limited most of my subscriptions this year after doing a no-buy journey of conscious consumerism. I was like, I don't actually need to be subscribed to any kind of product. So I just need to read this, probably won't keep it, even though I've heard that it's really good. Shark Heart, another book of the month. This one is a little bit silly, right? It's a love story by Emily Habeck, and I read it and didn't immediately declutter it. It's one of those stories that's kind of a parallel for other things, I guess. Like, basically, it's a relationship where one part of the couple discovers that they have this rare genetic mutation that means they're going to turn into a shark, so they can't have a normal relationship after that, right? It's like if somebody passes away, right? Life changes. And I don't know, something about how, I wouldn't say it's like fine literature by any means, but the storyline did make me think about losing people or drifting apart from people or life's changing in a way that I found kind of meaningful. Do I think I'll ever read it again? I don't know. But for whatever reason, I wasn't ready to let it go yet. And I don't know that I'm ready to let it go even now. So we'll add that to the books I've read. And for now, I'm going to keep, even though it's not necessarily something I would be like shouting off the rooftops that I enjoyed. But it's not something that, like I said, I'm ready to let go of just yet. So there we go. Pablo Neruda, Book of Questions. Is this a poetry book too? In fact, yeah, this could be another kind of poetry book / coffee table book with beautiful illustrations. So this is another keep. In fact, I'm just going to put it with the other kind of coffee table book, even if I haven't read it, just because I'm not going to sit down and read it all right now or anytime soon. Complete Short Stories of Ernest Hemingway. I, again, have a sense that I might read and have a reason to keep this, even if it's just for one story in the massive volume. So it's going to go in the read and possibly keep pile. Tale of Two Cities. Charles Dickens. I don't know if I'm going to want to keep this, and I know all of these books are in the public domain, right? Not sure if I need to apply the want to keep a book by this author, because this one is so renowned, and I don't know that I need the reminder. But nonetheless, for various reasons, I mean, again, other people in my family might want to eventually read it. I'll put it in the to read and maybe keep pile. Same reasons apply to the Iliad by Homer. And then I have a music-related book, Notes for Violists, a guide to the repertoire. I feel like for various reasons, maybe not various reasons actually, for the main reason that I am a violist, I should probably keep this after reading it, even just as a resource. This is just a book of logic puzzles that I think we just need to do and declutter, so I'm gonna put this in the read and declutter pile. And now we're finally going to get into the book bin. And hopefully, again, I can speed through these. We're going to encounter more books that I've kept for reasons, so there might be more stories to come, but let's just get into it. I keep this under the bed, so these books aren't even in ready, accessible state. All right, speed round. Some of these are need to read and possibly keep, so let's do all of those first. Most of them are philosophy related, meaning in life and why it matters. I think I got this for the college course that I ended up failing, Achievement in the Meaning of Life, so we're gonna put that in the need to read and possibly keep. Same for the Grasshopper. I didn't finish this. It was for that course as well, need to read, possibly keep. I remember liking what I did read. I had the Bertrand Russell book on Western philosophy. Is that in here? Or did I not grab that one? So there might be one or two more books kicking around my house somewhere. I don't know where that book is. I don't see it in here, unless I'm just overlooking it. Let's keep going. Philosophy 101, same deal. Then there are some in the classics category that are also read and might keep, so let's blast through those. Treasure Island, Grapes of Wrath. I read almost all of that, but forgot it all because I took too long to finish. Edgar Allan Poe, The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Reaching Out. This is another music book that I will keep for musical reasons, about how to connect with your audience through interactive performance. Outline History of Western Music, same deal there. Baroque music. For now, I have kept this book, but I'm not actually sure that I need to. I'm gonna put it in the read and possibly keep pile. A lot of these need to be revisited, don't they? We've got Grimm's Fairy Tales. I'm not actually sure that I need to own this, but I do want to read it and decide. So we're getting a long TBR. Multiple piles of TBR. Tolstoy, we have The Kingdom of God is Within You and What is Art. I got this for the What is Art. I was thinking about doing a project when I was in college and never did it, about like live art installations, you know, randomly around town or around campus or wherever, public locations, kind of inserting art into the community. I'm still interested in ideas like that. So I don't know. I mean, I want to read it and get what I can out of it, even if my ability to do that kind of project is limited now by daily life, not being a student, having other people depending on me now. Tolstoy, The Confession, A Confession and Other Religious Writings, same category. Wow, that's gonna bug me if that philosophy book is not in here. Where could it be? And how many other books have been omitted accidentally from this declutter? I'm gonna have one more check in the closet, actually, because this is really gonna bother me. Where could that be? All right, another classic, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Need to read it. Have not actually read it yet. The Canterbury Tales, same category. The Human Comedy, Balzac, that same category. I have Pere Goriot as well, another Balzac that my kids have appropriated once again. So I wonder if they've taken the history of Western. Is it the History of Western Philosophy? I think that's what the book was, by Bertrand Russell. I wonder if they have that too. Aesop's Fables are kind of in the same category as Grimm's Fairy Tales for me. I want to see if I can read them and then decide whether I should keep this. Chekhov's A Night in the Cemetery, classic that I may or may not want to keep. Haven't actually read yet. A Confederacy of Dunces, same. You know, it's a Pulitzer Prize winning novel, so I just, you know, thought I should read it. Acquired a copy, haven't read it yet. Some German books. These are in the same category as the Spanish one, right? I don't feel like I will get around to reading them anytime soon. I think I put the Spanish book in this pile as a result. So I'll just add those. Stephen King. I got this specifically for Rage, I think. The Bachman books, you know, written under his pseudonym, and need to read it. Probably will keep it. Not sure. I'm also not sure that I want to be scared and disturbed right now. Going through a period of like health hypochondria and increased anxiety. So I'm just might have to put that on the back burner. I think we might have reached the point of this declutter where I'm going to talk about the books that I keep, have read and want to keep. And that collection is actually not that large. It's just this portion of the container. And, you know, if I treat this as room for the rest, hang on a second, my poetry book of Emily Dickinson is also not here. So that must be with the Bertrand Russell collection of books. Where could they be? Are they in a drawer? Be an odd place for me to put books, but if I had to tidy that shelf in a hurry, maybe that's where they've ended up. What other books have I forgotten about that are in that category? Surely it's not just the Bertrand Russell and the Emily Dickinson. Anyway, let's go through the books that I keep for reasons. I'll try to briefly go through those reasons and see if I still want to keep them. So, The Power of Now. I talked about this in my book video, the first one that I did on the 4 Agreements. This was the first book of that kind that I had ever read, and I think it was recommended to me in college. I don't have an inscription in here, so it wasn't directly given to me, but I remember it changing my way of thinking, and I read the second one as well, did not keep the second one. So the first one, The Power of Now, it's about being present in the moment. You know, one of those kind of life philosophy books reminding you that the present is all we have and all we should care about, because that's all that we can experience in any given moment, right? That's all that's guaranteed. So, Power of Now. Going to keep that in this box. The Rise of Superman. This is a book about the flow state, and this was recommended to me by my viola teacher in college, my master's degree. And I think I found it really helpful at the time, right? I perhaps need to revisit this one because I don't actually remember what I got out of it. I couldn't tell you like what it taught me. I just remember it being about the flow state. So maybe I need to add this back to the need to read it again in my keep pile. Whereas I do remember what The Power of Now taught me, right? Being present, and had a good way of explaining that for me at the time. So if I were to revisit it, I kind of know what I would get out of it. So that's the difference between these. Revenge by Stephen Fry. I had a long period where I used to watch the show QI, quite interesting, and Stephen Fry is the host of that. And I read a whole bunch of his books. So Revenge, to me, is just the best one. And, you know, there's other ones, some of them are kind of mildly disturbing, you know, in similar ways that Stephen King is mildly disturbing, or maybe more than mildly disturbing. Similar ways to the way that Fight Club is mildly disturbing, or books by that author. In fact, did I own one by that author? Is that also with the Emily Dickinson and Bertrand Russell? Do I have Chuck Palahniuk in that list? I don't know. Remains to be seen. So anyway, this is another one of those books that I keep as a bookmark of the author and of that period where I was voraciously reading everything that he wrote. I don't think I've read every book of his yet, so there's still more to be had. But I do still like Revenge. I think it is based on The Count of Monte Cristo, which I should probably read that as well to get to the original source, but I really liked this kind of retelling. Kurt Vonnegut, same deal. Like this author? Okay, something fishy is up here, because I know I have another Vonnegut. I think I have Player Piano. Where is it? Where is that last alcove of books that I didn't find? Well, this has turned into a somewhat embarrassing revelation that I did not, in fact, gather all of my books as I thought I had initially. Anyway, I have 2 by Kurt Vonnegut here. Welcome to the Monkey House, which is a collection of short stories. Love his short stories. I remember being really tickled by the story To Be or Not to Be, which was written in the numbers, like to be, you know, numbers and letters, to be are not as in 0, to be. And I was really tickled by that at the time. I thought it was really clever. I was younger, admittedly, but maybe if I stumbled upon that for the first time today, even as a 30-something-year-old person, I would still be tickled. I don't know. So keeping the short stories, this was one of the first Vonnegut's Breakfast of Champions that I read, and somebody stole this for me from my high school library and sent it to me in New Zealand. So I don't support stealing. It was a time in my life that I remember fondly. There's actually a little note in here that says self-destruct. And I couldn't tell you for the life of me why that's in there. It does look like it could be my handwriting, so I don't know why. I don't know why that's in there. And I used to have the note from my friend about how she stole it from the library, but alas, that is no longer in here. But the due date that's last stamped in here is my birthday in 2008. So I don't remember if that was part of this or not. The plot thickens. So many connections to that book. Anyway, one of the real treats in my life after moving countries as a teenager and really being angry at the world for a short period. I have Ishmael now. This was a book given to me by an ex-boyfriend, lest the wrong people are watching. And it was a birthday present. And here it says, happy 23rd birthday. And I wanted an inscription, right? Hopefully you can't see any incriminating details. But it was one of those things where I think I basically requested that this person give me some of their favorite books for my birthday. And, if they would be so kind as to write in it so that I knew what the occasion was and what, why they were giving me that book. So this person obliged very kindly. I don't know if I have the other book. I think this person gave me 2 books, but I think the other one was a little bit more of a kind of light reading. Not that this isn't light reading. This is definitely an easy read, but Ishmael, An Adventure of the Mind and Spirit. I again remember this being pretty transformative in my life as far as how I looked at things at that time. So the author is Daniel Quinn. I actually think I do want to revisit this. So maybe I'll add it to this list. This isn't really tidying, is it? On reflection, I don't know if my husband's gonna consider this tidied, so I might have to put these somewhere else. But for now, it'll go to the list of books that I need to read and will keep. And actually, given that this pile is getting so big, I'm gonna put this one back because I know I wanna keep it. Reading it does not influence whether or not I'm gonna keep it. So we'll put it back in the box. Plato and a Platypus Walk into a Bar. One of my roommates had this book, I think, in college. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure one of my roommates had it and I loved it so much that I wanted to get it for myself. And so I eventually did when I found a thrifted copy. It's just a bunch of philosophy related jokes. So again, it kind of speaks to my interest in philosophy that I've had the interest for a long time. Jack Kerouac's Big Sur. This book took me forever to read and finish, and I still couldn't tell you. In fact, did I actually finish it or did I stop halfway through where my airport ticket is? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But once again, there's a little bit of an inscription in somebody's address in this book. Reminds me of very fond times from a summer music festival. Wouldn't it be crazy if any of these people were watching this video? I highly, highly doubt it. Once again, a book with an inscription from somebody with very small writing and a date. That was cool. This was a series that person really liked. And I think it's a young adult series, so I'm really not keeping it for any reason except for the memory of the friendship with that person. So I would not really want to reread this and didn't keep the rest of the books in the series, which I think they also gifted me. But I mean, sentimental memories. The Crying of Lot 49 by Thomas Pynchon. I need to read this. I have not read this. Again, this was recommended by the same friend, I think, that I had the falling out with that was reading The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde. And I've heard about this book, right? I've read reviews, heard that it's good. It's another one that I need to read and will probably keep, and I'm just going to keep in this bin because this pile is getting too large. This is the final book with the connection to that same friend, All the Pretty Horses. And I think there is an inscription in this one. And it just makes it really special. It is a birthday/Christmas gift. The friend says from what they remember, the book itself is still pretty good, although they hope that the condition of the copy doesn't offend me, which, they're kind of joking. I actually don't think this book is in bad condition. It's just a little warped, water damaged. And then I think there was a band that they recommended in here as well. So Sun Kill Moon. Anyway, I don't think I've actually finished it. I don't remember what this book is about. So I need to read it. And we'll probably keep it. The Music Lesson was recommended to me by a friend in New Zealand. This is not the copy that I borrowed. I purchased my own because that was their book. And it just reminds me of both that time, but also it was a fairly transformative book at the time. I was an undergrad for a music degree. And so this perspective on music was really fun and novel. Okay, The Unbearable Lightness of Being. This is the other book that the Ishmael person got me. Yeah, so that inscription is here. I did keep both of them. Okay, so I was misremembering. I think I was confusing it with the series, this other one, Mixed Up Memories. So this, The Unbearable Lightness of Being, I would consider this one of my favorite books. And even now, I can't really tell you what it's about, but I remember the feeling I had after reading it. And how, it felt like my eyes had been opened again and there were new vistas available to my mental perspective. And I really want to read this again, actually. The Unbearable Lightness of Being by Milan Kundera. Description says something about how this book taught me how to feel for the first time that I can remember. And again, I highly doubt that the people in question are going to see this and be scandalized that I shared some of their inscriptions. The things they carried. This is a little bit of an inside joke because I have gifted this book to my husband for numerous occasions. He's not much of a reader, so he has not actually read it. I wrote an inscription in here for him, and I think 2020 is maybe the first time it became a gift. And I even wrote in here that I might have to re-gift it before he actually reads it. I thought he might be interested in it because he was in the military and is interested in anything kind of related to wars. But like I said, he's not much of a reader and doesn't have a lot of time for that kind of pastime activities. So I'm just gonna hang on to this and we'll see if the time is ever right for reading. Bertie Wooster Sees It Through by P.G. Wodehouse. Once again, another inscription from another ex-boyfriend. And this comes with interesting memories. I do like the stories. Again, it's kind of like that British charm of writing. And yeah, it's just a funny reminder, I guess, of a very different time in my life. Beetle the Bard. It's kind of like a tribute to my Harry Potter phase, which a lot of us probably had that. I was fairly obsessed with the series, and I was lucky enough to be alive when it was coming out. So I went to some of the midnight showings with my friends when I was, young enough for that to be extremely exciting, right? So I remember in my very early teens, 12, 13, 14, where I would get to go to the midnight show of the new Harry Potter movie with my friends, and just felt so fun and so magical, really. Exiting the theater at 2 a.m. or whatever, 2 or 3 a.m. with the streetlights sparkling, having just seen the magic of Harry Potter's world and all that. Just really good memories. I don't really necessarily need to keep this book. It's not like I'm revisiting a lot, but it just kind of reminds me of those times and how special that relationship with that series was for me and my friends at the time. Which book are we going to end with? I have 2 left in here, and then who knows how many that I didn't actually manage to gather for this, as I've discovered. I have Charles Bukowski and Nicholas Sparks. So is that ever like a more opposite pairing, I guess you might say. And the more I find out about Bukowski, the more I think, like, what a misogynistic example of like a male artist or male writer, whatever you want to call it. And, it's a window into the mind of somebody like that, I guess, the perspectives. And undeniably reading these stories, his work, his writing, makes you feel a certain way and is not always good. In fact, a lot of times it's not good. And I think there's some value in the experience of reading for that very reason, right? Of feeling the things that others might be thinking or feeling in your own way, but also in their way, or like as close to their way as they can communicate with you through the book and your lens of your own life experience. Anyway, so getting a little bit deep there. The last book, Nicholas Sparks, is the gift from my husband. And there's an inscription in here from him from my birthday in 2020. So ending on a positive note. And I would not consider myself a fan of the author Nicholas Sparks. Again, it's like beach reading, kind of like, I know this is trash, but I'm going to enjoy reading it and then not keep it. But I'm keeping this one because my husband took it upon himself to give it to me as a gift. And the inscription says he picked it because it's set in North Carolina and because it's a #1 bestseller. And I think my audition was in North Carolina at the time. He said in here, he hopes it's enjoyable, but if not, I can leave it at the airport, because I've been known to do that with books that I've finished and know I'm not going to keep. Just leave them for free in the airport for somebody else to pick up and read on their journey. So there's a lot of memories in this one as well. I did read it on the plane, and once again, I wouldn't normally keep it except for the memories and inscription from somebody I still love today. So ending on that note, putting some of these back. These are probably going to go back under the bed. I don't have open book storage right now, although it might come to be that my closet will double as clothes and book storage if I can manage to get things organized and simplified, as in declutter more clothes, which, in pursuit of my goal of more streamlined wardrobe and style for myself, not to have the space per se, but to have my clothing and wardrobe goals realized. If I am able to realize those, I might have room to display my books in there as well, which I know it's a little bit weird. I received a comment in my wardrobe video that was like, books in the closet, why would you do that? But I have the space in the closet for more clothes than I would ever want to have. You know, I don't want to fill that closet. So for me, displaying my books, you know, the other things that I derive a lot of enjoyment out of in there makes a lot of sense. And you know, everyone's life is unique and different. I'm gonna keep these books that I know I'm gonna keep forever in here. These are my piles. Need to read and keep, possibly have read and kind of want to keep. Need to read and probably declutter. Need to declutter, and I know I need to declutter them, and need to read and speak about on my channel. So there's the 5 piles. I think I'm gonna have to figure out how to put some more of these away so that they can actually be tidied under the bed. Maybe some of the classics will go back into this bin. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so I filled the bin to capacity and it's gonna go back under the bed. And now we have some orderly piles, question mark. And I'm gonna put these in a separate box to be decluttered. And now we'll see if this is an acceptable level of book clutter in the bedroom to be living with on an everyday basis. All right. Thank you so much for watching this one. I hope it's been mildly interesting. Again, I'm so sorry and mildly embarrassed that I did not manage to track down all the books that I thought I owned. And, you know that there are some books that didn't make it in here, and I can't even tell you how many there are that escaped my roundup clutches for this initial video. Let me know if there's any books that didn't end up in this pile that I said I was going to talk about eventually. And by eventually, I mean it could be years. Hopefully I can manage to do all of these within the next year, but I can't make any promises. If there's any other books that you want me to discuss, let me know. If there's any other books that I don't own that you would like me to discuss or would like to recommend, that would be great too. And despite my desire to not accumulate an endless reading list or to buy any more books, I'm not opposed to having more recommendations of things that have helped you. So recommend away, and I guess with that, I will wrap up this video. Bye for now, and I will see you in the next one. Oh, and that's not even going through the books that I currently have on loan on my Kindle. I don't own any ebooks, but I do currently have like 7 or 8 books checked out, so the reading list is a little longer than this.